Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited because the shoe I'm going to review for you today and give you all the ins and outs. This shoe is one of the most popular shoes, dare I say, on the market right now, which I have a lot to say already and I haven't even really got into anything clearly. My box isn't even open yet, but I want to preface by saying that the Adizero Adidas Evo SL, I have tried just a little bit a couple months ago. I didn't do a review then because I had some thoughts, which I'm going to get into, but I wanted to actually run a bigger chunk of distance than I had the first time I tried these. Now, when I tried these the first time, I only ran a mile. So to me, a mile is not enough to really understand how a shoe is going to perform. Quite frankly, shoes sometimes take multiple runs and a little bit of that breaking in period to be able to fully grasp its capabilities. I know that this is a fan favorite and I want to give it the old college try and take it for a run and really speak to you guys about my thoughts and if I would recommend this shoe for you. As you all know, I'm a neutral girl. Had to pick up a pair of the neutral Evo SL. So if you want to take a peek at this colorway here, look at this thing. Beautiful. Like a beautiful ivoryish cream color, a little bit of a gold accent going on here, but this is a very, very clean shoe. It does come in quite a few different colorways. Odds are you're going to find something that's going to work for you, whether you want more neutral or a pop of color. So the Evo SL comes in at $150 US. We'll talk more about what my thoughts are on that price point in a little bit. And then of course, obviously, more so its value for its actual performance, which is what I usually like to kind of chat about when I go into the review component of my videos. The Light Strike Pro foam here adds energy return and cushioning. So it is a lighter weight foam. The shoe, picking it up out of the box, it is very lightweight. I think this is a shoe that people really are going to enjoy for all different distances of running. I wouldn't say this is a recovery shoe. I don't know yet really until I actually take it out and do all the paces, which I didn't do the first time, and then I'll be able to let you know. But this is known to be more of an everyday speed training shoe. That's what it's meant for. If you know me, you know that that's right up my alley of what I'm looking for. I always like a shoe that is an everyday daily trainer, has the ability to go fast if we wanted to, but we can slow it down too. The weight of this shoe, we have a women's size 7.5 US is going to come in around 6.6 ounces, and a men's 9.5 is going to come in at 7.9 ounces. Let's talk about the upper of this shoe. This is an engineered mesh, very, very breathable and light and soft. This mesh upper is quite a bit different than the Boston 13s. The Boston 13s, if you saw my review on that, or if you've tried them out yourself, you'll know that that's a relatively stiff mesh upper. It was a little too rigid for me. And then this feels more like it's going to fit like a glove, which we love. I rhymed. Let's go ahead and dive into the outsole of this shoe. Similar to the Boston 13s, we have the Continental rubber grip here. Supposed to be a very, very durable, high traction grip. You feel it and it feels so smooth as if it would slide versus grip. The Boston 13s, which I actually happen to have right here since I just reviewed those. So this is a little bit of a different, it does have the Continental rubber as well, but it has a couple different variations of rubber. But it to me, out of the feeling initially, there's a few different layers that I feel like this will have better grip. But I'll keep you posted. It is not a rainy day here, so I won't be able to actually kind of tell you how it'll perform in wet climates, but at least I can give you an idea of how it feels on the pavement when I get going. The heel to toe drop is 6 millimeters, so that's a sweet spot for me, very comparable to the other shoes in this line. It does have a small nylon shank plate in the midsole of this shoe. Now, probably not enough for the average person to notice it, but I'm assuming that's going to help with some of the propelling during a run. And for those who are maybe a little bit more sensitive or more well-versed, having run with shoes with plates to some capacity, maybe you'll notice it a little bit. I'll keep you posted on my thoughts when I actually get into the run. I'm gonna test this for some interval running, so I'm gonna try and take this up to a very fast, not quite sprint pace, and then also slow it down to my warm-up and recovery pace too, so that I can speak to, does this shoe perform at all the paces that I would anticipate it performing at? So I have heard a lot of people do enjoy this shoe for racing in. Now, I've heard people have used it for half marathons and for full marathons as well. just initial opinions and thoughts, that does surprise me a little bit. I could see this potentially being a solid fit for a half marathon, especially given that it is meant to be more of a fast shoe. And, you know, with the foam composition here, I think that it's going to be a little bit more comfortable too. So I think that's a bonus. But I have a hard time believing that this would hold up well for a full marathon. I have not run a full marathon, so I'm probably speaking out of turn here. I'm a big half marathon girl. That's my sweet spot. Love running a half marathon. There is a good amount of cushioning in the heel here, and this feels very durable. First glance, I'm not anticipating having any issues with rubbing, discomfort, slippage, or stability concerns here. I'm very happy with how this feels. Actually, even in comparison to the Boston 13, the Boston 13 had a little bit more give here. I don't like too much going on the heel. I think that sometimes it can almost make me feel a little bit too warm, and sometimes almost actually increase with some rubbing issues as well personally, but most of my rubbing comes from actually just the overall design of the heel collar. Let's get ready to take these for a run. I'll report back, go through my rankings, call how I see it, and also tell you, is this another Thunderstruck shoe or not? Let's take them for a spin. I am back, fresh off my run, if you couldn't tell. Sweaty, very sweaty. And there's a reason for that. Let's talk about all things Evo SL from my run. Then we're going to rate it for performance, quality, comfort, and price point. Let me back up a little bit because I talked about my moment where I did not love this shoe, which is going to be controversial, as mentioned before, when I first got it. I think I tried this shoe a couple months ago. Did end up returning. And the reason I didn't love this shoe, mind you, I only did run about a mile in it, so didn't really give it a fair shot. I will admit, you know, we all make mistakes, okay? I didn't give it a fair shot. And let's first chat about what I did not love in the beginning, and today after taking it for a 4-mile run, how that made it a little bit of a different experience. I'm going to try my best to show you this because I think it's going to be a little bit better from a visual perspective to understand the issue I was having the first time around before getting rid of those and then landing back here today with a new pair. So the insert here, I don't know how much justice this is doing for it, but it is a narrow insert and I have relatively narrow feet. I'm a true size 7. The size 7, I will say, does fit true to size from my perspective. I had no issues in terms of the overall fit of the shoe. I felt like the toe box was very forgiving. If anything, maybe even a tiny bit on the wider side. So I think it is wide foot friendly in that regard. Now, that insert around the arch narrows quite a bit. Pretty extreme from pretty much any other shoe I've tried, I would say. And when I first stepped into this, the first time I tried it, and also today, I felt as if almost the foam here was pressing up into my arch because of how my foot was almost overlaying beyond the insert, kind of into that foam region. I did not love that. I was very hard on it in the beginning and didn't give it a fair chance a couple months ago. But here we are, taking it around for another test run. And I will say, did I notice that same feeling that I was so reluctant with before? Yes, but I gave it a fair shot and I was very committed to taking it through all my different paces for that entire duration of the 4-mile run. And that feeling dissipated the more I ran, almost to the point of not noticing it at all. Now, I will be very clear, it was not uncomfortable in terms of pain, pinching, pressing. So I don't want it to be misunderstood that that was such a negative factor. It just was a little annoying. And that's something I really love in general. I like to just have my foot laying nicely over the insert and not have anything feeling like it's unstable. Because that was, I think, another fear of mine, is there would be stability issues given that that is pretty narrow. It's not unstable, I will say. I mean, I give it a fair shot today, and you know, they say you can give a second chance. People believe in second chances around here, right? And I gave this a second chance, and it was not as bad as I thought. So everyone can not come at me yet, okay? Because I haven't even gotten into all the other thoughts and opinions. Just had to give the reasoning for the original return and how we ended up here today with a new pair. It wasn't bad. Once I get going, it was fine. Not a big deal at all. As I spoke of before too, the mesh, very, very form-fitting, nice. There weren't any rubbing issues and it was not a hot shoe. Very, very breathable. I actually it's laundry day for me. So the socks I'm wearing are not my typical features, ultra thin socks. So I was worried I was going to run on the hotter side anyways, and then I couldn't even blame it on the shoe, but I honestly had no issues. So there was a teeny bit of the mesh upper kind of poking, as you can see, kind of as it bends there, poking into the top of my foot and toe region a little bit, but because this is a lot thinner, more flexible, less rigid than the Boston 13s, it didn't bother me. I don't love weird things kind of poking and prodding, even if it's not painful. It's just more of like an irritation that's just, again, annoying, similar to what I was talking about with the insert. Going back to sizing here, this fit very true to size. I would not recommend sizing up or down. If you have a pretty standard, consistent foot in terms of sizing, I will say that if you have any concerns in terms of width, be cautious with that insert being on the more narrow side around the arch. Lots of forgiveness in the toe box, but that arch could potentially pose a problem for you if you do run on the wider side. We had no blisters, so that is a win. Check that box for me. Very happy with that. Not even any remote signs that that was going to be an issue the longer I ran. In terms of pacing, I started at my warm-up pace / recovery pace around an 8:30, and I worked all the way up to borderline sprint, not quite sprint, so I went all the way up to a 6-minute, 18-second mile. And I had fun in these. I felt that this shoe actually did a great job at all of those paces. I'm one, for those of you who know, I do tend to want to go fast and find myself unintentionally in a faster pace. And the shoe let me do that pretty seamlessly. The transitions were great, but I didn't feel that this was a shoe that would struggle at slower paces. I was a tiny bit cautious with that because of essentially the description of this being a faster shoe between that nylon plate shank and also just the foam composition here. I did feel like this was going to be, sure, an everyday trainer, but geared more towards someone who's going to want to do more of those tempo runs or interval running and even maybe race day paces to some extent. And I felt that this did a great job at everything. I enjoyed it more going fast. Nobody's gonna be surprised at me saying that. But if you are someone who was a little bit reluctant to try this shoe because you maybe don't have a fast pace in your eyes, I wouldn't avoid that shoe for that reasoning. I felt that the foam was it's relatively flexible. It did have some stiffness, probably a little bit due to the shank. Nothing that would be overly noticeable. I said I may or may not notice that. Didn't notice it too much, but I do have a lot of experience running in some sort of a plated shoe. So I do feel that maybe I can tell a tiny bit, but I would say the average person, if you're not used to it, you probably wouldn't notice it. The foam was comfortable, yet it had enough bounce, so I could propel myself forward. I do feel that this shoe would be really great for a half marathon if you wanted to go with a non-plated, well, I guess technically plated, but not faux carbon plated situation option. I think that this would be great. I think that this will give you that performance you're looking for, but then also kind of hold up that entire time and have some comfort elements as well. Overall, the outsole here, I did feel that this was pretty solid. I don't feel that you're going to have too much slippage. I still would be a little cautious running on wet pavement with this particular rubber. I'm so curious if anyone has done that. I don't get a lot of rain where I live, and again, I don't like to run in the rain. Let's rank this shoe, the Evo SL, here today. Let's begin with performance. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 9. And this is pretty crazy for me just because I returned this shoe a couple of months ago. It's rare I'm going to repurchase this shoe. If it's gone, it's gone. But everyone kept telling me, give it another chance. But there's so few people out there who dislike this shoe. They said this was a fast shoe. They said this was a good daily trainer, good for some interval running and tempo running. And I had a lot of fun at those faster paces. I think that this is going to be most fun for people running at tempo up to race pace, but you're not going to have any issues with going slower too. And for that, having it be more of a versatile shoe for people in different types of runners is a win. And I think that it almost does more than what it says it can do. And I always want to make sure a shoe can at least do what it says, but if it can do more, great. The quality. I would also say that this shoe is a pretty solid quality overall. I'm going to go ahead and give it maybe an 8.7 here. Now the reasoning, okay, it's still 8.7 is great, so let's just not get crazy here, but the reasoning it's not maybe as high as my first ranking of performance is sort of because of that mesh upper here. I think it has room for a tiny bit of finessing, fine tuning here so that it's not kind of pushing on toes. I feel that that is something that can be fixed. And that was just something that was just a little bit bothersome, not a deal breaker, but something to note. The foam's great. It's a combination of comfort, but also has that firmness that helps you propel forward. I think it's going to hold up pretty well. I think it's a little too early for me to say that it could last hundreds and hundreds of miles. I think that the other area for improvement in terms of the quality would be widening up that insert just a smidge and having that be less of an issue for people. Of course, it being a lighter shoe, you're looking for ways to shave off weight where you can, so I understand not wanting to add more if you don't have to, but it's still a lightweight shoe. So kind of piggybacking off of quality, comfort, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 7.9. Only bumping it down a smidge, and I know that there's a little bit of overlap here in what I'm about to say. I thought this was a very comfortable shoe in terms of the foam composition. Stepping into it, it felt nice on my foot. It fit pretty much like a glove. I think that narrowness of the insert, and then again, that pressing along the top here was just enough to feel that it wasn't the most comfortable shoe for me, even though I enjoyed running in it. And I think that once I got to that 4 mile mark, I felt a little bit of the firmness kicking in a tiny bit, but I still feel like I could keep going for quite a few more miles and wouldn't have a ton of issues. Just a few things to note, but overall, it's a pretty solid shoe. I mean, 7.9 may even be a little low. Maybe it's more of an 8.1. Can we revise that? Run it back. 8.1. Let's go with that. I think 8.1 is fair because it still brings down some of those things that I think did have room for improvement from the quality aspects of it that would make it more comfortable for longer distances. Last but certainly not least, price point. I think this is a very reasonable shoe at $150. I think that it's very competitively priced, and for what it does and what it can do and what it has done for a lot of people, $150 is a solid price point for this. I think you can use this for race day. I think that you can use this for everyday tempo runs. I think you can get a lot out of it. So I think that's a steal. I mean, a lot of shoes for everyday training, they range, depends on the brand, depends on the model, all the different technologies within it, but it really ranges from like 130 to 170, upwards of 180. And in the ASICS Sonic Blast that I just reviewed recently, that was one that was on the steeper end. Now it does have a full Astro plate, which is another type of plastic-ish plate material. But I mean, this has that shank in there. I'm surprised it's maybe not a little bit more, especially with how much of a fan favorite this is and people buying multiple pairs because they love them so much. Is this a Thunderstruck shoe? Kicked off my run with Thunderstruck because I had high hopes. I was being very optimistic this time because I was not fair last time. As I said earlier, we believe in second chances around here, and yes, this is a Thunderstruck shoe. I'm surprised, maybe more surprised than you guys. I know you're not surprised. I'm sure most of you also would agree. I did not think that I would like this shoe. I actually did not think I would be keeping this shoe. I felt that I'd be giving this another trial, having it for a few more miles, and then still coming to the conclusion that it's not for me. And that's okay. Not every shoe is going to be for every person. That is the nature of the game. I guarantee people won't agree with me on this review and some of the things I said. Or maybe you'll agree, who knows? But regardless, I really enjoyed it. And I think this is gonna be a great shoe for me doing some of my tempo long distance running. Thanks for tuning in and bearing with me as I went over everything Evo SL. If I missed anything, let me know. And if you have any other recommendations for shoes that are similar to this, drop it in the chat and let's talk about it. Until next time, see you soon.